Hello, everyone. For this section, we are talking to Liz Julian from the Office of Career Services. We'll be providing information on the benefits of study abroad when it comes to your career. Whenever you're ready, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm going to just run through some things that you can start thinking about that will be beneficial career-wise. When you get back, we'll talk more about how to actually translate that on your resume and how to talk about it in an interview. So every year, employers are asked in my professional association, like, what are you really looking for when you hire employees? And they tend to be employers who hire a lot of interns, who hire a lot of recent grads. And I love this list for a variety of reasons. One, it is in priority order. So like the number one answer was verbal communication. And then lower down the list you go. They're all very important, but there is some weight at the beginning. What I like also about it is it's not till about the seventh one down at technical knowledge related to the job do you get to the sort of field specific things that might be useful. Now, obviously, you do have to know how to engineer to be an engineer, but if you're not good at verbal communication, if you're not good at teamwork, I would want to make the argument you're not a very good engineer, but also you probably aren't going to be the one who gets the job over an engineer who is much better at verbal communication, who's better at teamwork. So I love that part. And I also love the fact that those first 6 items don't have to be learned on a job. They can be learned through volunteering, through campus involvement, through a regular job meaning not maybe one directly related to your field, or they can be learned on study abroad. There's a lot of different ways to get these skills and develop them. So that for me is really encouraging because the question I hear a lot is, how do I get that job without, they all want experience and I don't have experience. You do have experience. All of these things, including study abroad, help with your experience. So we can go to the next slide. So on the left, I put a list of what students feel they get out of study abroad. And then on the right is still that employer list of what they're looking for in employees. So the ones that I've checked are explicitly like word for word on the employer side. So that's great. The ones that I've starred maybe aren't as explicitly, like curiosity. It's not explicitly on that employer list, but I would make the argument that to solve problems, to plan and organize, to process information, to communicate with people, to sell and influence, you have to be curious. So those are the ones that I'm like, I could argue as a career counselor who's somebody who thinks about these sort of things, you definitely, those things our employers are looking for too. And the other ones that aren't necessarily starred or checked, I do think they still build into all the other ones. So you're gaining a ton of things through study abroad that really employers truly are looking for. So beyond those, for lack of a better term, soft skills that we just talked about, it is something that you can put on your resume. And there's a lot of different ways that you can handle that, just depending on what your experience is. So we'll talk about the resume portion more when you get back, but it is something that does add to your resume. It does help you stand out. Even if an employer isn't explicitly looking for somebody who studied abroad or has international experience, when I'm meeting with someone and interviewing them, it's nice to have something that we can talk about that maybe is a little bit different or just interesting, right? Sometimes resumes can start to look all alike, and if you have something different, it does help you stand out. If you are looking to learn or improve a foreign language, obviously that can be a huge benefit and an opportunity to do that. It can help you be more employable internationally or in the US. So it really can help you in a lot of different ways. And particularly if you are interested in working internationally or with an international employer, having that experience is really a huge benefit. And then also there is some evidence that it does increase your base salary. So the average Stout grad makes $44,000 at graduation, and students who studied abroad make about $7,500 more than the average student who didn't study abroad. So it can be a huge asset, just even finance-wise. So what can you actually do career-wise abroad? Doing an internship might be tricky, just because visas come into play. You have to have the right authorization. If you're interested in doing an internship abroad, I definitely recommend talking with both career services and study abroad before, to make sure you have the right approval. But even if you're not and have no intention of, that's okay, because there's lots of things you can do that don't require necessarily a visa permission to do it or having an internship set up. So one thing you can do is you can set up informational interviews. And if you've never heard, like, what's an informational interview? It is sitting down with someone. If you've ever heard someone say, hey, can I take you out to coffee and ask you some questions, or can I pick your brain? That's really what an informational interview is. You're not asking for a job, but you're getting information about a field, a company, a job from somebody else that can help you in just your general knowledge, or can help you in your career search down the road. So you can set these up with professionals in the country you're going to, reaching out to them, getting connected to them, and asking. And you can do it phone, virtually, email. There's lots of options. In person, should that be available. And then you can ask, like, what are some differences between the field in this country versus the US? How competitive is this field? Are there different degree requirements? How many companies are global and hire lots of different people from different countries, or is it really just this country focused? You can ask those sort of questions so you can know, like, hey, this field is really still open to me in a different country, or maybe it's not, but I should look at this company. That's something really useful. Another thing you could do is you could go on a job shadow, half day, full day. You can ask a professional, hey, can I just come shadow you for the day? And then you can get a feel of what their workload is like. Maybe you have a really good informational interview and you ask that person, hey, can I come shadow you for the day? This is a really great way just to get a little bit more feel of what their professional environment is like, and maybe what some differences are between the US versus another country. So those are two big ones. Some other ones that really can help you career-wise, attend a networking event. If there is there's associations, basically adult professional clubs, for every field. They exist everywhere. So if you're in London, I guarantee there is a professional networking club for your field. If you hear about it, find out about it, look it up online, and they're doing an event, go to it. Go attend, do those sort of things. It can help you, one, again, just be a better professional, but then it can help you network internationally too and expand your network. You can volunteer. This is a little more, not exactly a one-to-one career connection, but anytime I can put volunteering on my resume to begin with. But if I can talk about, hey, I went and did above and beyond what was expected for my study abroad. I went and volunteered in the community. I got to know Mexico City really well because I volunteered on top of studying abroad. That would be something great to be able to talk about. And throughout all of this, if you're meeting contacts, if you're meeting professionals, add them on LinkedIn. LinkedIn isn't just for the US, it is truly international. So add them. It's a great way to be able to stay in contact with them easily. And also people, your peers who are also studying abroad, or they are international students from other countries or the country you're in, add them on LinkedIn, stay connected with those people. So in terms of thinking through, okay, well, what am I going to do? What do I have time for? What would I like to do for my career? It's helpful if you think of this in advance and set some goals, because study abroad will go fast, particularly if you're doing a faculty-led trip. And it's easy to kind of push this optional stuff to the side. So before you go, I would recommend setting some goals and thinking through what goals do you have career-wise. If you've ever heard the acronym SMART for goal setting, it's a good guide for setting some goals and helps here. So specific, measurable, is it achievable? Is it realistic? those two are very interrelated. And time. Time is probably your biggest resource here, or constraining resource, if you will. Because again, if you're doing a faculty-led one when it's only a couple of weeks long, you have some pretty big constraints. If you're doing a semester or a year-long exchange, you kind of have a lot of freedom and time to work with. So time is your biggest constraint. So for example, if I was doing a semester-long one, I might do a half-day job shadow in a related field. That's what I'm interested in. I'd like to do it at 2 different companies. So that's sort of my measurable part. Is this achievable? I think this is achievable. That puts me out for 1 job shadow every 1.5 months. That's not an insane pace. That gives me time to find them, because people might not be able to do this, and ask people and set it up and arrange it. So it gives me plenty of time to work with. And the goal is before the end of study abroad. That's my time constraint. If I had an exact date in mind, I would put before May 31st, right? That's the day I'm flying out. That's the day it has to be done by. And you can do that. You can make that really simple too. Like, I want to go to 1 networking event, or I want to do 1 informational interview. You can tailor this to how much time you have. Okay. Lastly, think through what to pack professionally. I'm sure you've seen plenty of what to packs for study abroad. These are some things to think about throwing in there that will help you career-wise that I don't see very often on lists. So professional goals, obviously your personal goals. What do you want to see? What do you want to do? But also professional that we just talked about. This can just be on your computer. It doesn't have to be a physical list. It could be whichever one you want to work with. I like to bring a few thank you cards and obviously a writing utensil, because then I have them, and it's always nice to be, an email is nice too, but if you have the opportunity to hand someone a nice handwritten card, I think that leaves a nice impression. When you're doing job interviews back in the US, email's fine. If you have room for them, a small souvenir from home, it's always a nice touch. People are going out of their way to do things for you, taking their time and their energies to answer your questions or let you do a job shadow. It's a nice touch to have something. I really think it'd be great to bring like little cheeses from Wisconsin, but I almost guarantee there's some import-export rules there that might make that a little tricky. So maybe not cheese, but if we could, that'd be great. But something small like that you can easily pack that isn't going to take up too much of your space. I would bring a few physical copies of your resume, and then also an updated digital copy. You never know when you'll need one, and it's nice to hand out if you come across an opportunity. It doesn't need to be a ton, 2, and then if you need more, you'll print more. And then some way to keep track of your contacts. So whether that's a Google Doc file, an Excel file, just something to say, this is who I met with, this is their company, here's their contact. It's really easy to lose track of people, so keeping track helps a lot. And then just some last 2 things, a journal or a blog or even just an open Word document, some way to keep track of your feelings. What did you do today? It can be professionally focused, it can be just in general. You will see this one on a lot of lists. There's a lot that goes on when you're abroad that maybe you don't quite process until much later. But if you want to keep track of what you're doing, I really recommend that. You never know when you'll look back and be like, oh, I remember this. This was a really cool thing. And I totally forgot about it, but my notes reminded me. That'll be helpful down the road. And then lastly, I would recommend, if you can, bring home or bring with you an outfit. Just one professional outfit. Doesn't need to take up a ton of space. Just something if you need it, especially if you are interested in an informational interview or one of your goals is to do a job shadow, you're going to want to have something professional to wear. So bring one outfit, then you have it should you need it. So when you get back, we'll talk more about resumes, about interviewing, about how do you really sell that experience. But thank you so much for joining me today, and have a great time abroad.
Thank you so much, Liz, for all of that great information. If you have any questions regarding the information given in the presentation today, please email studyabroad@uwstout.edu.